Evolution Lumberjack in a nutshell. Lumberjack will be the next evolution coming to Clash Royale. You can find him in the Diamond Pass, which if you will be buying, I would appreciate you using code Abdod to help fund the channel. His stats are exactly the same as the regular Lumberjack, except for his ghost stat. Basically, his whole gimmick is that once he dies, he will spawn a lumber ghost. The ghost and the real Lumberjack have the exact same damage and hit speed. The only difference is the ghost has infinite HP, or rather, no HP, and your units cannot target him at any time, which begs the question, the f am I supposed to do to kill him? It's easy, he's addicted to drinking, so just take away his rage and he dies of depression. I'm actually not joking, he dies when he goes outside of the rage he drops. The rage literally runs in his bloods that if he's vanishing and enters one, it will restore him back to existence, which makes for an interesting synergy between the Lumberjack and the rage spell, encouraging you to use them both in the same deck. If you look at the animation, it seems like entering the rage slowly restores him over time rather than instantly get him back to being visible, which pushed me to test if it's more efficient to have him always stay inside the rage the entire time by connecting the spells together, or if it's better to space them out so you can use the small window of lifetime he has outside the rage spells before restoring him back to his former self. And in conclusion, he did move more distance with the second one, meaning there is no stacking mechanic involved. Quick note, rage spell dropped by the enemy does not restore your own Lumberjack. What this means for you is that if you are using him and have a rage, it's best to drop it slightly before he vanishes, but practice your timing or you might end up raging a Mega Knight player's father instead. Being invisible without HP doesn't mean he is immune, as you can freeze him if you had to. You can also stun him, knock him back, or even tornado him away. And cards like Electro Dragon will still hit him, which kind of wastes a shot on nothing since the damage is wasted. Luckily, this doesn't apply to stuff like Hunter's Shot, so he can't just absorb 10 bullets and screw you up. This also doesn't include Electro Wizard because for his second attack to split, he needs to see both targets, so in this case it just goes on one, which is good. Splash cards can technically hit him without seeing him, but it's no use except for Ice Wizard, since that one can slow him down. The ghost himself can receive a pancake, which is mostly a waste since he's a temporary troop, and you can't see if he has a pancake or not due to lack of HP bar, but he normally doesn't one-shot a princess. And obviously, with the way the leveling works in Clash Royale, a Lumberjack getting a pancake before dying will spawn a ghost one level higher. They do count as two different units, so when an enchanted Lumberjack dies, the buff doesn't carry over as the Rune Giant will buff something else if available. But if he was alone, the ghost himself can get enchanted after he spawns. Being a different unit means when the Lumberjack himself dies, he will spawn stuff like the Cursed Hog when killed by a Mother Witch, or a Goblin when under the Goblin Curse. An extremely funny detail I noticed is that the ghost disappearing will work with the Goblin Curse. The only gimmick that doesn't really work on him is Clone, and I should not have to explain why. Also, fun fact, he doesn't go over the river like Royal Ghost, but I told them to change it, so if that changed, you know who to blame. When it comes to countering him, it's a bit awkward because your stuff will ignore the ghost, which will make him target ranged cards in some instances. You also can't use Tesla anymore since it will go underground once the Lumberjack dies and spawn his ghost, which will go directly on tower. It's also very important to note that even at 1 HP, there is no ignoring an Evo Lumberjack. Even with the quickest tower, he will get at least 2 hits, which is a ton of damage. Instead, you need to make sure to kill him before he crosses the bridge, as this will make him expire before tapping that princess tower. Majority of the time, he will die on your side, so you realistically would want to absorb his hits with something until his lifetime runs out. Any slow tank can be decent enough to stop thousands of damage on your tower. And if you don't have a good option to absorb the damage, you can always stall by kiting him, since you wouldn't have to worry about him coming back after your Hog Rider dies. Kiting can be done in other forms, like using one of the princes on the upper middle to kill the Lumberjack, as they will jump over the river and kite him back to the enemy side. A small number of ranged cards can get away with both damaging him down and kiting him as a 2-in-1 bundle, but it's very rare to find a card that can do both at the same time, because a lot of the times they are too slow, they end up dying to him. So you might have to look into kiting him with some other card after killing him in any way you like. It's not that complicated. Remember when I said splash attacks can affect him? Kinda funny how the bowler can reduce the value they get from the ghost significantly if he keeps knocking him back along with something else. And Evolved Electro Dragon can use the ghost as a rod to abuse Infinite Lightning Chain, which makes him an advantage to you instead of being an advantage to them. When it comes to using him on defense, you want to drop him directly on the bridge so you can get the most value out of your ghost. Dropping him in the middle to kite troops like you usually would is gonna end up resulting in the enemy troops running away from the ghost easier. In a way, he almost feels like a spell because it's guaranteed damage on whatever stuff you drop him on, even if they one-shot him. Skeleton King with a bunch of swarms, the rage will take care of those while the ghost will kill the king. 3 musketeers with a ton of spam, you can easily guarantee the death of those musketeers by just dropping him on top. Offensively, I don't see him used in many different ways, but I do think he will be less effective with a balloon since he can't attack air troops, so he will get less value. Compared to say a Ram Rider push where the player is forced to place cards directly on top to kill the Ram Rider, which the ghost will get rid of any potential counter push. I can see an argument with using him in some split lane decks or with cards that can attack behind the bridge, because the ghost requiring an extra response will make it harder for them to focus their elixir on everything at the same time, compared to how single pushes can be stopped easier since the same big troop you defend with will be distracting the ghost anyway. It will also allow you to get away with overcommitting on offense. Like, how are you gonna get punished if they get no counter push because of the ghost? This Evo will be basically great with a lot of building targeting win conditions that he already was good with. For King Tower activation, it was possible with the normal Lumberjack, so the Evo one should work as well, but he will deal a ton more damage to the King Tower in his ghost form. What makes this risky is that if the opponent uses a rage on him right before he expires, he will nearly take out the entire King Tower on his own, and with a mirrored rage, it's game over. The issue is, even if you noticed him going for it, it's too late, as you have no way of pushing him away once he locks on unless you use some sort of spell. What you would need to do instead is to place something before he locks on, which is admittedly a big investment for a king activation. Fisherman has the same effect, but it's less extreme because the Fisherman himself will absorb some damage and get the Lumberjack to die quicker. The way you want to activate the King Tower with this evolution is by pulling the ghost himself if he was spawned close enough to your tower. Here's the new arena, which looks like some sort of a forest with a bunch of trees cut down, presumably by the Lumberjack himself, and sadly, yet again, there seems to be no music for it. This evolution is honestly very interesting because of how unique it is, and given it has a limited lifetime, I don't think it will be as game breaking as Evo P.E.K.K.A. or Evo Mega Knight, regardless of how strong it actually is, my dudes.